Welcome to Talking in Stations. I'm Matt, Earl here with Arsia. How are you doing?
Doing well, and yourself?
Really good. All right, today we have a special guest from the Alliance Tournament, TheLastSpartan. We'll meet him in just a second. He's from Templis Calcif, and those are the champions of the Alliance Tournament. But first, I want to tell you what we're doing today. We're going to talk about the Alliance Open. It's called the Alliance Tournament Open. I don't know. We'll put all those three together. Somehow they go together. We're going to talk about a Fortizar in YTAC 2 that had the initiative in it, and that Fortizar actually flipped over to Pandemic Legion, causing an awkward situation, so we'll get into that in a little bit. Also want to say happy 16th anniversary to Ashra Khan. That's Eve's oldest alliance that's still around, so it's good that they're still going. Also wanted to cover the big topic today that merits a lot of discussion. There's not much about it except the ramifications, and that is the drone changes that are being introduced by CCP in December. We'll talk about those. Okay, let's get started here with the last Spartan. He is the commander of the Alliance team for Templis Calcif, which actually went, I believe, undefeated, and ended up just... I think it was described as trouncing, like the in the finals. So they just really dominated. So congratulations to them. He's also one of the main fleet commanders for the Wrecking Crew. You know them as the group that displaced Providence Proviblock in Providence. So it's nice to meet you, the last Spartan. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Let's talk about your Alliance tournament and how did it go?
Went very well for us. Yeah, as you said, went undefeated. Beat Warlords 3-0 in the finals in the best of 5.
Yeah. Was there a tough match, or was the final the toughest match?
Our toughest match, I think, was actually, which would probably be surprising, No Vacancies. I think were the closest ones to beating us in one of the matches.
Oh, where's No Vacancy from?
I believe they're Wormhole Alliance.
Yeah, they're a Wormhole Alliance. They've currently, I believe they live in a C2.
Okay, so they gave you a run for your money.
Yeah, I think that's the closest we came to losing in the tournament. Halfway through it, I thought we were going to lose that match when it ended up just being my Scorp Navy, which was almost dead, and Killer Scorp Navy left, and they still had most of their DPS.
Yikes.
What kind of practice went into your preparation for the tournament?
We were practicing between 4 and 5 times a week. Each practice was roughly 2 to 2.5 hours. And usually ended up being like 12 matches. We would do like 4 sets of bands, and then we would just run through those best of 3, things like that.
Did you start practicing the second you first heard about the upcoming tournament?
Yeah, I believe we got the rules on August 1st, and we were practicing August 2nd.
What kind of strategy did you have for the preparation and the practice?
So a lot of it was I had a couple of people on a theory crafting team that would be making comps for, like every day, basically. And then we would basically decide bands based on whichever comps we wanted to test, and then see if we would still be able to use them when we got the other team's bands.
And did people tend to field the ships you expected them to?
From other teams?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Sometimes there were things that were very out there that we didn't expect, or taught us things that we weren't thinking about before.
What are some of the things that surprised you that you think were good ideas?
The triple Bergus, I think, was one of the big ones that we hadn't been thinking about until I think Vote used it against us. Paladins, I believe, was one that Tuskers used a comp that was similar, but not quite that, and then we took that and modified it and ran with it.
Going into the tournament, who were you scared about?
I mean, definitely like Warlords, Vidra, Volta, Tuskers, Vote. all good teams. Tuskers and Vote were people we practiced, so they knew a lot about what we would choose and things like that, which always makes it nerve-wracking to play them. And then Warlords, Vidra, Volta, they're all good teams that are a bit challenging to fight.
And they're the ones who have the biggest AT track record as the main thing that they've done over the years.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Warlords? Are you talking about Warlords or
Yeah.
Hydra? Okay.
Warlords and Hydra.
Yeah. Yeah. Plus, lately they've been wrecking stuff all over the place. But so that's who you were mostly afraid of?
Yeah, I'd say so.
What did you like about the tournament format that you think worked well, and what would you have changed?
I like that they brought back being able to use more than one of the same ship type. Definitely opened up the restrictions a bit compared to previous tournaments. I think the wildcard idea was cool. We didn't end up using ours, but it was a nice addition that balanced it out a bit. I like that it was on Thunderdome as well to balance out skills and everything, so didn't have to worry about who could really fly what with max skills compared to normal tournaments.
Well, here's a question from Devious Citizen in chat. It says, Spartan, were you guys the ones that used the MJD beacon?
Yes, we did that in our second match against Warlords when we were in the Vindy Bow comp versus their Armor ECM comp.
Can you describe what happened there? What is he referring to?
We saw what they were in. They had warped in at 50 and we warped in between like 20 and 40, so there's like 50 to 70 kilometers between our two teams. So we fell back to one of the MJD beacons to try to MJD behind them, and if we could catch the rooks, that would be good, since the ECM is always annoying to deal with, especially when you're getting tackled down by things like Damnations and the Sacrilege that they had. They ended up pulling in, so when we jumped it, we weren't able to grab any of those things, but it still forced them to turn around and reorganize. So,
Oh, nice. So is this something that you've done over the years, Calcif, Templus Calcif, or are you relatively new? Because I've heard of you guys in tournaments before, actually a ways back, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, we started Alliance tournaments a few years ago. I think it was either 14 or 15. And then we've done a lot of the tournaments like the Anger Games and even T's tournament that they had, where it was 5v5.
And I saw some of you in a couple of the 2 versus 2s in the physical locations. I think like Savoy was in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did that.
Oh, at the Fan Fest there. Right, Arsia at the Fan Fest.
Yeah, the FanFest 2 versus 2s. Like I saw Savoy in Toronto, and I think Vegas.
Right, because they have tournaments at the Fan Fest. So you show up, and whoever shows up gets into these tournaments, and you do.
Yeah, the Invasion Series tournaments. Each location had a 2 versus 2 tournament that had rules like the same rule set. But they changed the ships, so those were some pretty fun tournaments. But they were obviously restricted to the people who were at the location. And there was the online one at the end.
So, but tournaments are something that you guys have done for a while, so you're no strangers to them, but it makes sense because to come out on top, you have to have some familiarity. Highly competitive, though. You didn't do that much practice, it sounds like. You were still able to take it. Are you surprised at the amount of success that you've had with it?
I think we put about the same amount of work as most of the other teams that were in the tournament. I know we were at least similar to, from what they were saying in the Discord channel, similar to the amount of practice that Warlords and Tuskers had.
Yeah, I was with Waffles for a while, and a lot of my court mates in there were practicing with you.
Yeah, it sounded to me like they did a lot of practice.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, not to
It was-
diminish your work,
it-
but
Like, yeah.
It did sound like you guys were practicing a lot.
Yeah, it's most days of the week.
Yeah, it's more than I ever practiced for a tournament.
okay. It must be your
Yeah,
relaxed voice
and-
that made me think that you guys just showed up and took it over. But you guys did as much practice as other people do, which is quite rigorous. I mean that's and it goes on for a few weeks, if not months, right? So how do you condition yourself to get into a tournament? What's that look like?
It's just something my alliance really likes to do, so it's not too difficult to get people to show up to all the practices, and I enjoy it, so I don't have an issue of spending my nights doing that.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to, get on one of these, what are essentially, I don't know, race car teams, right? They use the best gear. They practice. It's almost like you're on a racing team. But if somebody wanted to get on, what's their character have to look like skill wise?
I mean, this one was on Thunderdome, so all the characters were 5.
Oh, I didn't know that. So they just gave everybody 5s on everything to take
Yeah, on
skills out of the.
Thunderdome.
As
Oh. But to practice, you need to have a character.
as long as you were able to.
Yeah.
But on
Yeah,
CC, you
we
can
didn't
eject
have-
pretty easy because most of the practicing on CC, I would assume, right?
Yeah, that's what we ended up doing since we didn't get Thunderdome access until I think mid-October, maybe a little bit earlier than that. So there's a lot of practice on Singularity and extracting all of our alts to get extra skill points.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So you guys practice on the test server, which means you guys can inject like crazy or extract your ults, take all those SP, put them onto the characters, build those up to have all the skills that you need to fly all the ships that you want to try. Then you practice. And then when you go to perform the tournament, CCP gives you characters that are 5 across the board, so you don't have to worry about skills. Interesting.
Yep. At least for this one, it was as long as you could fly the ship on Tranquility, you could fly it in Thunderdome with max skills.
Well, that must have felt pretty good.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah.
It was the only way they could give us AT ships as well for the wild cards.
Yeah, could you explain a bit how the wild card works for the people who aren't aware yet?
Yeah, so they had a list of AT cruisers and AT frigates from like years past. So things like the Bisu, the Tana, Malices. And then as a team, you could pick either 2 of the frigates or 1 of the cruisers as your wild card. And then during the tournament, you could use it once in all the matches up to I believe it was the finals or the semifinals. And then it would reset after that and you could use it again. But you can only use it for 1 match.
You said you didn't use yours, but did you have a plan of what to use?
Yeah, we had a couple of Ibisu comps that we were kind of keeping in case we needed them in the best of 5. But didn't end up getting there, so never ended up using it.
Well, you can save them for next time. Is this going to be an annual tournament?
They haven't said, but I hope so, because it
Yeah.
was a lot of fun.
You would come back as the undefeated champions, right? Next year?
Yeah, 100%.
All right, cool. I think
And I also heard rumor they might do.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I heard a rumor that they might do another Anger Games, which is a 7v7 tournament. So hopefully we'll hear more on that.
So
Yeah.
for anybody who doesn't know what a Rabisu is, it's a tournament Blood Raider logistics ship. So it's on Tranquility, they're very rare. They're a tournament reward. And they are, just look them up if you want to see, but it's like a Blood Raider faction logistics ship.
The only ones that have been destroyed in Tranquility have been in previous Alliance tournaments.
Oh, that's where they get pulled out and used, I guess.
Yeah. But since this one was on Thunderdome, real ones weren't being destroyed.
Yeah.
that sparked a little controversy. What do you think about? Do you think it's better that everybody has access to having one of these ships at a certain point, or do you think it's better that the groups that are able to obtain these ships for real should have an advantage?
I prefer where it's balanced out, but I might be a little biased since we're one of the teams that never really had access to that. It did make it a little bit worrying because, especially going into the first weekend, we were pretty sure that we would face at least one wild card, and the first team we played ended up using their wild card, so it definitely makes it a little bit more difficult.
Right.
How much tournament experience did the people involved typically have? Like, you guys have been in a decent amount of tournaments, and well, Warlords of the Deep definitely. But what about it in general? How much do you think the other teams had?
It's hard to say. Like, I know with a couple of my practice partners, it was older names that we've seen in alliance tournaments before, but others, I'm not so sure. Some of our like scouting reports on the other teams would be like, this person is in a Hydra or things like that, but it's hard to say because I didn't look at it a whole lot.
Last question on the tournament, then I have to ask you about some other stuff. But the do you have any? Did you go up against anybody that you looked up to when you were smaller? Did you have to fight any of your heroes?
Not really. Not that I can think of. Some of the teams definitely, like, from previous tournaments, we knew they were good, which it was cool to be able to play them, especially in like the semifinals and finals. But
yeah. All right. Well, that's cool. Yeah. So what I was saying earlier is the producer host Ithaca Hawk said that you demolished the Warlords in the final match. Sorry that we spoiled it for you guys. It's still worth going back and looking at these. You can check them out on talkingstations.com. There's a link here to the playlist of all the fights. And here's the opening sequence built by Kornmar. So, go back and check that out. It's definitely worth looking at some highlights and stuff. And then you can watch Calcif go all the way as they kind of rip through everybody. Now, in the middle of that, you actually got into a huge brawl, right? Was it a three-way brawl in Syndicate? The Wrecking Crew was called in by Waffles?
yeah, Waffles reached out to us, so there would be a potential fight with like 100-something people on the other side. So we formed a Tengu fleet, and they found us a wormhole that we ended up taking up there.
Yeah, Tengus, that's pretty much one of your signature doctrines in particular, right?
Yeah, it's one of the ones that
HML.
yeah, it's one of the ones that I made that I've enjoyed using.
So chat is asking about the Zappy Boys. Could you explain the Zappy Boys?
We had one guy and then like two other people. The one guy had 10 alts that he brought in Stormbringers, and the other two also brought Stormbringers. So they were shooting those things at the Rattlesnake fleet a lot to try to clear all their drones.
How did you feel Stormbringers did? Because I saw Phoenix Naval Systems deploy Stormbringers in a fight against Usher Khan a month ago or so, and they seemed to be doing all right. How did you feel they did?
They're okay at clearing drones. I'm not sure if it's very worth it compared to having like 10 more Tengus or anything, but yeah, they definitely did at least some work against the Rattlesnake drones, since they ended up putting out like a flight of heavies at some point, I think, because they ran out of sentries.
I just want to say that for the record, I am a fan of the Zappy Boy.
Yeah, Edencom people. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about in regards to your tournament performance or what you guys are doing in Wrecking Crew?
Yeah, what kind of stuff has RC been up to lately? Since join your fleets occasionally, but the last time I really remember something really big happened was the fight in Lantorn back in the summer, which I believe Arsia was also in that fight.
We were in a fight in Camella. We were in Camella when we were chaining in the Guardians, right?
I think I remember that fight. One of the ones where we were fighting Snuff and Laserhawks and all them.
Lantorn was another Snuff fight. Camella was when we defended the Usher Khan Fortizar. Lantorn's when you destroyed the Snuff one, right?
Yep. That ended up costing over, I think, like 1.2 trillion between our two sides.
A lot of
hidden dreads in it. Yeah, a lot of hidden dreads. Lately, we've been doing just things like that wormhole fight that we went through to help Waffles. Fighting Snuff a bit in the EU time zone over some of the min mill and Amar mill structures.
Yeah, haven't they deployed back to the area?
Yeah, they're living in Lantorn again at the moment.
I think they just blew up the RSM Fortizar in Sosala the other day.
Yep.
All right.
And they've been poking some air structures of siege queens and things like that.
Well, The Last Spartan, we've had you on the show before. We did a midweek show with you, and it's good to have you back. We'll have you back again, maybe on a Sunday show. But congratulations on winning the tournament. It looks like you guys are saying you guys are recruiting.
Yep, we are always recruiting.
Templis Calcif. So if you want to belong to a pretty elite unit, you might contact Templis Calcif. Do you have a public channel people can join or something?
Yes, I believe it's just called CCDM space channel or chan.
All right. I'm sure somebody will write that in the chat here in a second. All right, cool. Well, listen, you're welcome to stick around. We're going to talk about drones next. If you have any opinions on that, we'd be interested. But Arsia, why don't you tell us what's going on with the announcement today about drones?
So CCP put out a little announcement today that they're going to be changing how aggressive drones work coming December. As it stands right now, if you set your drones to aggressive and something shoots you, the drones go and retaliate. But they'll be changing this so this is no longer the case for NPCs. They will only be retaliating on player ships. So right now, something that's very, very common is to use drones for either AFK or very low attention PvE. You see a lot of Ishtars and other similar drone ships ratting in nullsec, and you see a lot of AFK Tristans in faction warfare offensive plexes. And this is because they don't have to put much attention to the ship, and the drones will continue to shoot other NPCs that are shooting them. They'll be changing it so in order to fight the NPCs, you'll have to give a manual order to attack the NPC. It won't be changing any engagement mechanics with players, but with NPCs, you will no longer be able to basically AFK rat or AFK offensive plex in faction warfare.
Well, that's okay. So you can see there's 626 at this point. There'll be more. 626 comments to this thread inside of the Eve forum. So this is a hot topic.
Yeah, it's been very common for a long time for people to basically AFK rat as well as AFK plex in faction warfare. And so there are a lot of people who feel that the PvE content isn't particularly engaging, but they just want to do it with a low attention activity. Well, maybe they do something else, like watch a movie, or if they're not even there at all, in order to make money or push a system in faction warfare or whatever they're doing. And a lot of the objections to this come from the angle of, instead of making it so you can't engage with the boring activity with the low effort mechanic of the drone aggression, to make the activity more engaging and more interesting, because they haven't fundamentally changed the ratting. They've just changed that you have to pay attention to it now.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say that you should have to pay attention to the game, even if the activity isn't particularly one you like.
Well, right off the bat, to me, the significance of this is it is going to make income a little harder to get because people used to rely on, I don't know, playing with alts and having the AFK experience where you're earning money with your drones. Your drones are wiping everything out. You don't have to really look at them or anything until they kind of wipe through the place. If that gameplay goes away, you're talking about reducing everybody to man hours, which means that you have to focus on the game to play the game to earn the money, which means there's going to be a lot less money being brought into the game.
Well, it is going to be a heavy nerf to the like the PvE ratting income streams that maybe don't make absurd amounts of money, but collectively make a lot of money. It'll also be, as I said, a big change to faction warfare because a lot of people would push systems. Like I used to have AFK faction warfare alts that would just flex systems. Like because I'd have like 4 characters open and I'd have one where I'm running around looking for fights, and the other 3 just be sitting there. And if they get destroyed, it's a basically unfit frigate, right? It's like a empty frigate and a defensive plex, or like an unfit, like a Tristan with drone damage amps and an offensive plex because the drones would just retaliate.
Right. Gregorian, you wanted to chime in?
Yeah, people aren't in nullsec aren't going to be able to multi-box huge amounts of Ishtars like they have been. I don't think it's going to affect botting, so I don't think it was intended to affect botting because bots will still be. It's just one more or input that can be easily botted.
Yeah, if you can program a bot, you can program it to launch drones and attack
assign
drones.
the drones. Yeah,
assign drones, attack drones. So botters, this isn't going to hit them, but it really hits the players that do AFK or do multiple accounts at the same time. And that's a big sector. I remember people talking about what is it? The Vexor, right? Vexor Navy issue with drones, and they did that for years. So,
and then it became the Ishtar when the Vexor Navy was changed.
Yeah, the Vexor Navy issue got reworked, so now it's more of a. Its damage has been moved to more closer to its guns, and it's more of a PvP solo brawling ship.
I think it's better than it was for PvP, honestly. But yeah, it's worse for
definitely
AFKing.
right.
It's going to be a lot of. You see it right now. You see a lot of Ishtars. You see a lot of Gilas. You see rattlesnakes. You see Dominixes. You see Myrmidons sometimes.
Yeah. I love Myrmidons.
And you just overwhelmingly see these ships as the ships ratting in null because of how drones work and how people are choosing to play with very low attention given to the ratting. Because, in all honesty, just killing the same NPCs over and over again isn't particularly engaging, but maybe if you do it while you watch a movie, it's kind of a fun way to make money in that regard compared to some other methods. So maybe it's going to be a little bit harder to watch the movie now.
Or you're cooking, right? Because I think it was Arsia saying he was cleaning the house while he was doing some AFK gameplay. And then this happens all the time in EVE Online. It was that kind of a game.
Yeah, and you see a lot of like Ishtars that'll have like a warp core stabilizer ratting, and makes me our scepter will like tackle one in a sight, and it'll just like warp away.
Yeah, I remember.
Go ahead.
I remember one time previously when a group that I was flying with was in a Blops deployment. By the end of the deployment, the Ishtar Ratters of the area were fitting 3 or 4 on warp core stabilizers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the flip side of it, well, actually, Spartan, do you have any thoughts on this? Does this affect your gameplay at all?
It doesn't really affect my gameplay or my alliance's gameplay really at the moment.
How invested is Tempest in faction warfare besides Diana Kim?
It's been a while since we've done anything related with faction warfare lately.
I love how Diana Kim is the exception, a well-known figure on the forums, and definitely
DK posted an in-character thread congratulating Tempest on their victory.
Yeah, I saw that, and
Yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
anyone who's been on the Intergalactic Summit forums knows who Diana Kim is.
We're talking role playing here, right? For
Yeah,
those that
Diana
don't
Kim
know,
is a pretty big name in
Caldari roleplay.
Caldari roleplay. Yes.
Okay. Ooh. All right. So the other side of this drone thing, though, is the overall design direction of EVE Online. Where's it going? And what is CCP trying to do with this change plus other changes that have kind of wiped out that AFK gameplay? The stillness of EVE Online seems to be yielding to the active, engaged gameplay. And what do we think of that?
Yeah, I like this change that they're doing that, but I wish they would do more to make the content interesting while making you have to pay more attention to it.
I agree with that exactly.
Well, they have with.
Like they've.
I mean, look at all the other PvE stuff they've built over the last 3 or 4 years. That's pretty engaging content. It's very active gameplay. So,
I mean, some of it is, but like you look at something like forward operating bases, it's super engaging, super active, not good for income in like the general sense of it. Right now, you still have a lot of people who are trying to make their money via these anomalies in null, and they've gone unchanged for the most part for a long time now, and they are just kind of the old AI, the boring AI,
Yeah,
we're nerfing it, and to a degree they were making far too much money, so like that's fine, but like there's going to be a point when people say, so this is the way I've known how to make money, and they're giving me all these nerfs, but they're not making it more fun, and now the game is both not particularly fun and like it's difficult to make money, so I'm just going to leave.
yeah, there seems to be a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this is it. This is the last straw," because this affects their gameplay style. Pretty clearly, CCP is working on new players to bring them into the game, and if players leave because some of the changes that are built to balance out the economy and the overall resource acquisition pipelines, like if CCP is making those changes and those chase you out of the game, it feels to me like CCP is okay with that. They're ready to lose some players that have been around a long time in order to build a game with a healthier balance of economy and gameplay for players that are coming. That seems to be a very calculated change over the last year, I would say.
So I definitely agree with things like the ESS change. I think the ESS is one of the best changes they've made in a long time. Mm-hmm. I think that the dynamic routing makes all the sense in the world, and I agree with that change. And I, for the most part, agree with trying to move the game away from AFK gameplay. And I probably agree with this change too. But at the same time, I think that they should put some focus into also making the content more enjoyable for the people who like and enjoy PvE. Yeah. And like that's not me, right? I'm the one hunting them, but I think that their gameplay shouldn't suck, right? Like I think that the anomalies need updates and maybe make them engaging and dynamic, and maybe even make ones that are uniquely profitable in some way.
Well, I'll tell you something. Oh, go ahead.
Instead of just nerfing the really old content while adding new content, I think they should try to find a way to improve the old content rather than just make it so unprofitable and still boring.
All right. Well, something came up today. I think we were talking about we were looking at the CCP stream they did on the server and talked about the technical issues, which was very interesting. And then we ended up talking about, well, we did a reaction stream to that. You can catch that on Talking in Stations. But then we ended up talking about just the technical development and how things worked and that sort of stuff. And we ended up looking at some old videos on Incarna and what that looked like. So I want to show this video. It's very rare. I haven't seen it since I believe it came out in 2009 or 2010. And somebody actually found it for me. Thank you, Spot.
Is it the old walking in station?
It's the old...
Before they changed the animations?
Yes.
Don't do this to me, my heart.
I know, right? Like me too. I got to. Hold on. Here it is.
Don't do this to me.
I have been looking for this for, I want to say 10 years. And so I finally...
You could have... I'm pretty sure it was posted on the Roleplay Discord not that long ago.
Oh, I should have looked there. Sure. Here it is. We're going to watch this video. It's only 2 minutes. And this is what was a concept for walking in stations, which is funny because that's what talking in stations
before they changed the engine with the old engine, right?
Yes. This has the old art. Here you go.
My heart. Oh my God. All right. Well, there that went. That was Incarna in its early conceptual work. And then they changed the engine and all we got was the room. And everybody shot the statue and quit the game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason
the monocle, oh God, the monocle and the microtransactions and all the Incarna drama.
All the badness that followed. But the reason I bring it up is if you look at that, that is just pure EVE Online circa 2003 through 2011. And what that really exemplified was time, like space and time. That you could see in the Mar, right? You had these huge rooms. They weren't little captain's quarters. They were huge rooms because you were like royalty if you were in those circles. And then the scale, the feeling of the scale where you come across an omen and it's gigantic. And then that omen is minuscule compared to the station. And you just got that feeling of this is a place that is big. And but what I wanted to point that out is in contrast to where I think the game is now and is going, and that is like people flying around in Titans, you know, and that kind of stuff is so out of place in that world that we just saw. So it kind of pains me, right? It's sad. I am nostalgic for that feeling of a big world that moved slowly. And again, in order to bring you all this PvP, to bring you this action, they need to speed things up. So they need to move time out of the way. And so you can't just bask in the scale of EVE Online anymore. They need to get players to the action to keep them entertained, to have them participate and play a video game. That seemed a lot more like a simulation. But EVE Online seems to be going towards a video game with some simulation trappings. So I wanted to bring that out today. And I think the drones change is it's another step in that direction of play this game. Don't sit there and accumulate the game, go out and earn the game. That seems to be the big change for me. Okay. Oh, and by the way, we were talking about this today too here at TIS, and it makes sense because you wouldn't expect kids these days who use TikTok and watch videos on YouTube to go and watch a classic movie in the 50s that was basically a stage play filmed in black and white. They would get bored. And so the generation of now is just accumulating experiences and stimulation much faster than previous generations. Even when I was in school, I did some film classes, and one of the interesting things was that if a scene, and this is in the like 90s, if a scene didn't change every 20 seconds, a person in a theater would get fidgety. They just can't hold on that long. And that was back then. Imagine what it's like now. So the idea that CCP had to change the game from a sim where there's time and space and it unfolds to something that is fast action makes a lot of sense, maybe survival-wise, business-wise.
So I'm not sure I entirely agree, because the thing about EVE Online is that it exists like the last bastion of a niche that has all but disappeared. And if it tries to make itself more like all of the other games, it's not going to stand out anymore. Like, all the people who like EVE Online are generally looking for what EVE Online offers and not looking for what the other games offer. So like, it should change. Everything needs to change to continue to survive. But if changing brings it away from the niche it fills, which is probably, I think, the reason why it has lived as long as it is, I think that would be fatal for the game.
Right. How many players left that were after that niche that is no longer?
Like, I would argue that everybody who survives, and yes, our retention rate is abysmal, is looking for that niche. And I would say a lot more who don't survive are too, and we just fail to explain the game to them. Right.
Yeah, I got into an argument with I think it was Brisk and Dunk Dinkle, and they were saying, we're here to protect the players. We want to protect the game to protect the players and keep the retention up. And to which I responded, you already lost the players. Those are the players that left because you kept pursuing only balance as opposed to dreamy features and futuristic worlds. Those guys already left because the orientation of the CSM towards development, the feedback, a lot of that was, no, pay attention to spaceships in space. That's where all the imagination is. And that was just something I was opposed to for a long time.
I think a lot of the development should be, there should be more development towards trying to help players find their niche in EVE Online. Like, there's so much different things you can do in this game, and it's really hard when you first start to not get lost and figure out like what you're doing. It was for me, like, I failed on several different trial accounts before I just subbed and continued playing, not knowing what I was doing out of spite because I was going to learn the game.
Sheer anger.
Right? Yeah, it was pure spite. I was like, you will not defeat me, EVE Online. And
And here you are.
sometimes that kind of attitude is what you need to survive in EVE Online.
Yeah.
And it's hard if you don't find people who help you along the way.
Yeah.
Because most people don't find their niche in the universe. And I think there should be a lot of effort put forth on leading people towards all the things you can do and helping them find what they like to do.
Yeah, that was actually, because at Talking in Stations, it's, we're doing this we're just doing this for fun as volunteers, bringing you news, now bringing you news inside the game. To sign up for TIS newsletter if you want the newspaper, the daily newspaper in the game. But all that was to experiment, right? That's what our reward is. We get to experiment with media. So we get to stream, we get to talk shows, we get to work with Discord. These are a lot of the latest tools. And one of the things I was thinking was, like, how can we innovate beyond? So our website, as you can see at talkingstations.com, is oriented towards mobile. It's almost exclusively for mobile. We don't want to bring people to a website. We want to put them in the game, or when they can't play the game, on their phone. And we were thinking at one point, how do we create I don't know what Tinder is, but I've heard it a lot. But the Tinder of EVE Online, where people can actually, not what they say they want to do, but what they actually do, get matched up with other people that do the same kinds of things that they do. Like, is there a way to get that AI to work or something?
So like something not maybe not exactly like Tinder, but something dedicated, like some kind of match feature to help people find corporation suggestions. Because one of the biggest crimes in EVE Online is how bad the UI is for corporations finding a corporation and like promoting your corporation, like in game.
This came up, by the way, at FanFest in Las Vegas. They said, we need you to vouch for corporations that are good, that'll treat us right. We're new players. You got to protect us. And they're like, we can't do that. And I started thinking like, well, only players can do that. CCP can't be biased. So how can an organization like a trusted one like TIS help put people together? And that's something we should still consider.
So yes, players should definitely do things like that, but at the same time, there should exist tools that help people look through the available recruiting organizations and help people browse like right now you like have a narrow set of choices of activities and locations that organizations are based in, and they only show you a certain amount of organizations, and you can't like keep scrolling, and just like the entire UI around recruitment is awful, right?
Yeah.
And obviously stuff player driven, promoting groups and pushing groups and showing people towards groups will always be wonderful, but I still think that the UI towards finding groups and promoting your group should be better.
Yeah. That's something we'll take up maybe in another show where we have more time to develop that theme with some people who are of particular interest. And we'll revisit that. But that's a big theme that we look for. Innovating, getting players together, being a part of player service, that sort of stuff. And also the other topic of CCP's direction for players and what they are. Yeah, maybe we'll build an app. We've already had some interest from a programmer who's like, I can build you an app. And I never would have thought of doing something like that. But now I'm kind of thinking about it. Okay.
But like what percentage of new players, what percentage of new players are never going to go to like forums outside the game or use like external programs or go into random channels that the game doesn't dump you in by itself? A lot of people are going to look via what's available in the game and not search through external sources, even if CCP, some do.
Even if CCP points in that direction. Because they're going to do that now with the partnership program. So some content creators will get pointed to from CCP. Maybe it's just CCP's social media that does it, but
but what if somebody never looks at social media? They just want to play their game, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. A huge percentage. That's why we do the in-game paper, right? That's why we bring the game, and we want people who are on that mailing list that get the news. It's just a news summary to give it to their court mates, to give it to friends, to give it to new players, to like tell them how to sign up so that they can get that too. Because we'll go to you so that you don't have to come out here to us. That just seems like the right thing to do. Okay, let's move on to a little bit more news here. The Fortizar and YTAC to ANO. If you'll remember, that actually is on the border of Delve and Fountain. That had, take us there on the map. But something happened there with a Fortizar.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, we had noticed the initiative had been doing a lot of move ops to move a lot of their big assets out of Delve back into Fountain over the past few days. A lot of it went through Iridia, but some of it went through the regional gate directly connecting Delve and Fountain, and those used Goon Swarm Fortizar in YTAC 2, which is the Fountain side of the regional gate, to drop stuff off. And early this morning, the corporation which owned that Fortizar was kicked out of Goon Swarm, apparently for breaking the Imperium's rules about exporting supers. And after they were kicked out of Goonswarm, they sold the Fortizar to Pandemic Legion.
Wild. That would be a devastating blow, but I don't think it's going to be as devastating as it's being advertised as, right?
Yeah, a lot of people from the initiative are claiming that they got everything out. I'm sure they got most of their stuff out since the move ups are a few days ago, but every move up has stragglers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but asset safety does make some, like, unless it's like a lot of stuff, it makes it kind of trivial, doesn't it?
Yeah. If worst case for the capitals is that they have a few that they have to asset safety to Hafib and wait a couple weeks to use, but there was a screenshot of someone pulling out the Clone Bay module from the Fortizar and destroying 294 jump clones, which I'm sure that most of those were empty, but I can't imagine none of them having implants.
Yeah.
But there have also been screenshots circulated around a lot of places of them moving a lot of capital ships through Iridia. So this definitely, even if they did have all their stuff in this Fortizar, they would still have a lot of stuff that moved a different route.
Yeah, so that is a pretty. Why did that group get kicked out? There was something written about it.
Yeah, it was apparently that they were breaking the Imperium's rules on exporting supers in some way, because the Imperium, unlike most coalitions, has a very strict rule against selling super capital ships outside the coalition.
Yeah, well, especially at war. There's a lot of people in the vicinity that want to use those capitals against the Imperium, so you wouldn't want those to slip into their hands. But I think there was something on Reddit about that. I think, let's see if we can pull it up.
Yeah, someone on Reddit, it sounded like he was presenting what's supposed to be the perspective of directors of this corporation. They were, or it sounds like he's claiming that they were thinking that they needed to leave the Imperium in order to bring life back into the corporation.
Yeah, and that happens with everybody. It's not particular to. It's not particular at all to Imperium, but corporations die, and what happens in a war is basically they don't want spies, right? So the Imperium will basically say no recruiting during a war. Other groups do the same thing. You get into a war, you don't want spies crawling into your ping lines, basically, so they can hear everything you're doing. So that means that you're stuck with the people that you have at the time. And if those people aren't having fun, they're going to go away and you can't replace them. So you start to diminish. And that seems to be one of the things that this person was talking about in this thread. I think he writes it right here. This is Sunflyer from Lord of Worlds Alliance.
Yes, I'd heard that DJ Aldard, who is one of the main fleet commanders in PL, got the contact to buy the Fortizar from a former member of this corporation who joined Lord of Worlds. So that's probably this person.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you a link to it. And anyway, it's not unusual. And so corporations suffer because they start to diminish in size. And once you get below a certain threshold, it's really hard to keep them alive. It just gets really demoralizing. And what's interesting as well is one of the options they give you is to merge into a different corporation, which is good for bigger corporations because they can absorb a lot of small corporations, but it's not great for for CEOs and directors that are trying to build their corporation. So it's kind of like you're losing all the people that you built up. And that's just, those are hard choices. So a choice might be to say, you know what, we don't need this, let's get out of here and take off. And that seems to be very that would be a very normal thing. So yeah. So anyway, the point is that this is a pretty ugly switcheroo underneath Initiative's feet, because at the very least, and this is confirmed, they're locked out of this Fortizar that had their stuff in it. Not all of it, but some of it. And they're going to have to asset safety it. And that's going to take a little while. Not too long, because they have other structures in the same system. So it won't take too long, and it won't be that expensive.
They have stuff in the same system. I think that makes it not even a big deal. Impactful at all.
The fact that they have stuff in the same system means that even the worst case scenario of having to asset safety to Hafib is unlikely.
Right. So
yeah, if they have stuff in the same system, it's not even impactful. Besides the clones that might have had stuff.
Yeah, but there's mixed signals on the clones. I've heard there's no serious clone damage. That's the word from Initiative. But somebody said they saw a picture. We don't know if that picture is real or not. So that's even up for grabs. Not even sure. But the point is, Initiative not that hurt by this, but it's not ideal, and it's still a pain.
The Initiative is claiming that the 300 clones that were lost were empty clones, not important implant sets. Like, I generally assume that every move op has a few stragglers, so maybe a couple of people did have implants, but I'm sure that it wasn't a huge number of people losing implant sets.
Right. So the point is that did happen. It is an inconvenience. It's not a devastating blow. Could have been in other situations, but not this time around. And it's the same thing as with Requiem. It could have been a devastating situation, but really the recovery was really the remarkable story. So this is just a near miss, I would call it.
Yeah, this is can also be contrasted with the previous corp that left Goonswarm Chemicals, because they had a much cleaner break with Goonswarm rather than what it appears with this is that the directors started moving all their supers out, and then when someone noticed that they were doing that, the corp got kicked.
Yeah. Last thing on this, the big deal, I think, with Initiative is what are they doing up in Fountain? Do they intend to defend it? Because now, if you look at the map, which we'll look at now, here's YTAC 2. Look at Fountain. This is all blue. That is all Initiative. They own those iHubs. That's the area infrastructure. And it has matured past 30 days. So they have the ability, if they haven't already, to build, we call them roads, but they're jump bridges between these systems, to put up factories and to start actually profiting from the land, which has been happening. A lot of Imperium people have actually been profiting off this land in the last few days, last weeks.
They're really crapping a lot up there. The thing is that recently they've started unanchoring a lot of their infrastructure as well.
To save it, I suppose. Because, and this is the wild card that happened, this system right here, T5Z, is now owned by Test. This is, unfortunately, the colors are both yellow for Condi, which is Goonswarm, and Test. So you can't see the difference very easily. But this system here is the forward operating base for the entire Pappy coalition or super coalition. And that means they can literally just go one step to D, TAC W, and then straight down into Fountain. So Horde is coming for Fountain. That's already been made clear by the leader of Horde, which means that all this is going to get harassed and possibly flipped and burned. It depends on who can win those fights.
Yeah, Gobbins basically said that everyone when there isn't a major opt-out and you want some PvP, go harass Fountain.
Right, so it's going to be there. If you're bored, go and destroy that place. And that's bad. It's called the second rinsing of Fountain, and that's something that came out with a few days ago on Saturday. So it will be interesting to see what Initiative does. I think that's the bigger story, is Initiative having to deal with this is not that big a deal, but it falls in line with all this other stuff that's happening. I think the Initiative is not having a great war. Fountain collapsed rather quick when they didn't get, I think they didn't get support from the Imperium in the way that they were supposed to get support, is what I heard, again, from the opposition. This is like information from Pappy. But it looked to be true. And that's the first bad step months ago, but now we're talking about even after earning all this territory back, having it taken away is going to be a demoralizing thing. So Initiative having a bit of a tough time, even though they're still very active and very involved. Okay. That's the war talk here. One of the cool things about EVE Online is just how long and unified a history is. And so today marks the 16th anniversary of Ashrakan. I made a video, but I'm not going to show it all because it's a little bit goofy. Just all the stuff that people said about them, but we do want to celebrate Ashrakan. They've been really good for a long time. And I mean, they've been somebody you hear about for a long time.
And the second oldest alliance in the game is their old rival CVA.
CVA was founded by Pi, which is the oldest corporation in the game, still active.
Yeah, so the oldest corporation and the oldest alliance.
Well, no, Ashrakan is the oldest alliance.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Pi is the oldest, yeah.
On both sides of that divide are the two oldest groups.
Our peers, we were at the beginning.
CVA is pretty old too, though, right? Like they're
second oldest alliance.
Okay. They're the second oldest after Ashrakan.
Yeah. CVA is not dead. They're just not part of Providence Holders anymore. They're doing something else.
They've seen better days, but of the former Providence alliances, they're one of the more successful ones adjusting to the new circumstances, it seems.
Yeah.
Like the one that seems to be most successful right now is Severance. Arcadios Sol is one of the main fleet commanders of Voltron now. Let me tell you, it was having spent a lot of time flying in Spartan's fleets under Wrecking Crew. It was really weird one time to get a ping for the Delve War that Horde members should join Arcadios Sol's fleet.
All right.
Since he was the main FC of Proviblock.
Yeah, I know. And then you have weird bedfellows, even in this war, where you have Pappy going after Imperium, and then they're together fighting for the health of the Tranquility Trade Center. So it's weird how EVE works. Alliances and commitments.
Yeah, especially it's a fun perspective being in character as a trader, because I fought Ashrakan for years and now I'm very blue with them.
You switched from Amarian to Menmatar side?
Oh yeah, Arsia is an Electus Matari now, which is another very old alliance, and very blue with Ashrakan.
Right.
And I was in Pi for like 6.5 years.
That's a nice story arc.
Because Pi, the oldest corporation, only flies Amar ships, only allows Amar characters. So they were like very, very restrictive compared to others.
Well, I'm sure you get a ton of hell from Minmatar saying, "What's that Amarian doing among us?"
Oh no, it's fun. It's fun.
Winmatar.
It's fun RP.
All right. Another thing today, this is an announcement from CCP, and that is the ISD guys need your help. And this was interesting. If you want to help out CCP as a volunteer because you love the game so much, there's a way to do that. That is the ISD program. It's the Interstellar Division of Service Department. And it's a team of volunteers who give their free time to help with various tasks around CCP and EVE, such as moderating the forums, help channels, and Twitch during live streams, as well as assisting with diverse and varied translation. And that's what I wanted to talk about. There's a couple things. One is the STAR team, and that is helping out with rookie chat and helping new players get up and running, and also helping moderate, again, the forums and also their Twitch. But the second area is location, or it's called Localization Department. And what that means is if you have language skills, like you have a second language, you can help CCP with their localization efforts because they want players to help translate this game into other languages since it is so specialized that some hired company just wouldn't be able to understand that. So yeah, so I thought that was a pretty cool thing. I wasn't sure that was the case, but yeah, you can help out with language translation and stuff. And that sounds pretty exciting. Okay. Last thing.
I just want to say
go
the
ahead.
ISD team is absolutely amazing. Every interaction I've had with them has been positive.
This is Hateless. He's joined us here in chat. How's it going, Hateless?
It's going pretty good.
Good. So you
I've
work
been
with...
here for like 5 minutes. I've just been quiet because I haven't really had anything. But ISD is absolutely awesome.
You're good. Yeah.
Yeah, the ISCs are great. Even if the LAC can't beat me at the downtime battle royal.
That's ISD TheLac. Yeah.
Yeah, ISD TheLac is one who hangs around the RP community a lot, and he's a good guy.
Yeah. Okay. There's one more thing here. I think we got all the news we wanted to get today. We're actually going a little long. That's okay. This is a pre-Thanksgiving show.
Did we talk about drones?
Oh, we did talk about drones, but not with you in here. Do you have any comments on drones?
I think it's a good thing, honestly. Some people are going to be upset about it because they like to do their AFK routing in Ishtars. Obviously, Abyssal runners are going to have a harder time managing their drones in the Abyss because healers are going to have to manually attack every single thing, whereas healers can kind of lay back right now. But I do see that the nullsec group that has already been hit hard in their eyes on ratting is going to be rather upset because they can't AFK their Ishtars anymore. And you can't have like 5 accounts running Ishtars because you actually have to manage the drones now. So we're going to see a lot of people upset about that. But at the same time, I think it's good in that it requires you to be attentive and paying attention to what you're doing, not just printing ISK being semi there, which I feel is good for the community and good for the player base as a whole. But for that small cross-section of people that exist and that do that, they're going to be upset. That's really the only downside to it. But overall, it's a good thing. I don't think that it's going to do anything to curb botting at all. They're just going to make that kind of passive, not paying attention playstyle less popular.
Oh yeah, Pandemic Horde's Discord server has a channel where you can give feedback to the CSM, which generally means to Gobbins, since he's the one most likely to read it. Sometimes I've seen Kenneth Feld in there, but some people are furious about this.
Yeah.
I am not surprised at all. But I think overall it's good for the game. It'll force better attention to your drones and force you to actually learn something about what you're doing rather than just F and walk away.
Right. Well, this is really good. So we get a perspective from mission running and general care bearing, but also we had a perspective on faction war, and this is affecting not just nullsec, right? This is not a nerf at nullsec. This is affecting a whole style of gameplay that ripples through all kinds of things. Like, are wormholes going to get affected by this?
I'm not a wormhole expert, but probably.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the wormhole ratting setups for C3 ratting, Helas are a popular ship because Helas are popular for any kind of PvE, and rattlesnakes are one of the setups that people use for C5s, but it's a lot less AFK. Typically, people pay more attention.
So do correct me if I'm wrong, but wormhole rats are pretty hostile to drones, right? So you have to pull them right in when they get aggression. So you're already paying attention. So it's not a big change to them.
Yeah. But definitely for missions, I remember going into missions and just putting out drones. Like, that was how I did missions. Sorry.
Yeah. And Nesters are one of the other big wormhole high-class ratting ships, but you still have to manually target the drones usually, and you can't really AFK C5 ratting easily.
And this is going to apply to drone assist too, isn't it?
I'm not sure. They do say that in nothing's going to change for PvP. So if you
but drone assist on PvE, right?
Oh, you're
because
right.
For like the Triglavian invasions, people would always have a drone bunny, but
yeah,
the wording
incursions too. I'm wondering if they will assist. Yeah, so incursions use drone bunnies. Any kind of PvE fleet will use a drone bunny. And also in my multi-boxing, I assign a character the drone bunny role. I'm not sure exactly how, if they assign that, that's telling the drones, and then the person that is drone bunny is giving commands. So that's still telling the drones to attack, right?
Well,
we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. I'm not
because normally the way it works is the drone bunny attack something with a module, and then all the drones will run over. But they are automatically attacking, and the way it's worded in the post, it says they will not automatically attack.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just not. I guess that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I would think that they would make drone bunnies function like that, because that's a role in a fleet.
I mean, drone bunnies don't function properly in low sec because they only act for green security status. So who knows?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see exactly how it ends up, because I know that the incursion community depends heavily on them to function and go as fast as they do.
This could be really interesting. So the ramifications of people not being able to do the things they did before to collect, to really harvest either ISK or loot from the environment, has got to push prices up on the market for things.
Well, most of the things that we're talking about in this change, ratting, even wormhole ratting, and mission running, for large part, they put ISK into the game. Aside from mission running, I know I'm incredibly biased, but mission running, you have like 70% of the ISK gets burned in LP. But on the other flip side, like, you still end up with a minor faucet. But ratting and other things, they're just faucets. They don't provide any service to the game. So it may bring the Plex prices down in the way that I see it, in that if there's less faucets and the pool isn't growing, then the price of the service, which is you buying Plex, will probably go down because the service is less expensive, relatively speaking. And yeah.
Much to think
Yeah,
about.
it does seem like a change directed towards inflation.
Yeah, so this change is coming December 8th, I believe, which is just a couple weeks away before it's in. We'll be talking about it this Sunday for sure. It seems to be, there's definitely a lot of, there's a lot of angles on this one. A lot. Okay, just want to say a couple more things here. There was this really cool thing called the joystick, what is it called? The Golden Joystick Awards. And this game that I played that I really liked won the best PC game of the year, or best game played on PC, which is, but it really should have won last year in 2019 for the best game played on PlayStation as well, but it was beat out. And it's called Death Stranding. So if you've never heard of that game, it was amazing, and I'm glad it won. I wanted to give it a thumbs up and keep on keeping on from me here, since I was such a fan of it. Played the hell out of that game earlier in COVID times, so right around the spring. Okay, and the last thing is happy Thanksgiving to everybody that's in the United States and celebrates that sort of thing. We're in a weird time, obviously, where this is the holiday where families come together and friends of families come together and stuff, and that's just not as possible as it would be because there is a virus on the loose. So anyway, everybody be safe. Everybody have a great Thanksgiving. For that reason, we may not have a show tomorrow. I think you'll understand that. And maybe not even Friday. So the next time you'll see us would be Sunday, unless we just have time on our hands and are able to do it. But I want to say happy Thanksgiving, and then we'll see you later on in the week. Okay, so thanks, Arsia, for helping us out. Hateless for jumping on. Appreciate that. It was nice to have Gregorian here researching. And I want to say special thanks to our guest from the Tempest Kalsif, the winners of the Alliance Open. That's the Alliance Tournament. And that is TheLastSpartan is his name. It's nice to meet him again and to have him here today.
So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And for those who can't travel, you can do like me and go fly a prophecy somewhere. It looks like a turkey. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right, everybody, stay tuned for a raid. We will see you later on in the week. Take care and be safe.